Hey guys, how you doing today? Getting into fancy scarf weather. Fancy scarf, fancy scarf, fancy scarf weather. Yes! I love fancy scarf weather. Uh, I love making up little songs, just so you know. I'm a delight at the toy store. I'm an absolute charm. This whole dour act that I've got going on YouTube where I'm like, and then the world will die. You know, that kind of thing. That's not how I am at work at all. And so I carry it with me into the world as far as I can. I'm a complicated person, okay? I'm a complicated person. My hair is getting real floofy though. I really hate it. I really hate how it's getting kind of, I want this to be way shorter. I want everything to be way, oh my goodness. And then I show it to you guys and I'm like, oh, the world will care. Oh goodness. What the heck's banging around? You know what? I was thinking about something this morning and it carried with me to now. So I want to talk about it. It's something I say off the cuff in a lot of my videos, which is, we're not having a disagreement, right? Like a disagreement, like politically, on the political stage, on the national stage, or even the provincial stage, we're not having a disagreement about how things should go. A disagreement implies that both sides have looked at the facts or the evidence, have looked at what's going on, and have come to conclusions that are at odds with one another. And so this allows you to disagree with one another and to try to come to a compromise or conclusion. And in a rational situation, the majority vote, or the majority of people, would carry the day. And then you would all move forward, reunified and in solidarity, with the idea that some of us disagreed with how we're proceeding, right? But the majority of us didn't, and so the people who were in the minority of the people who disagreed will just, okay, I disagree, but there's no point fighting it any longer. We had the vote, we made the decision, so we move forward in unity and solidarity, right? That would be a rational way of doing business and a rational thing to do in order to have a disagreement with one another, and then move forward, right? So this is the kind of logic that works for where should we draw the line for city zoning, right? We could have a disagreement about that. Even here, I'll even cede this point. Even the idea of publicly funded or privately run, right? Here's something that we can have a disagreement about, and that there are many points, and it's a nuanced subject that we can have a conversation about, right? That, which is better? Is a private business that's being run by the people who own it better than a state-run enterprise? Right? There are points to be made on all sides, in my view, for this particular issue. Especially when it comes to service industry, service businesses, right? Michael Parenti had a really interesting point on this, and he is like a left-wing communist type, and he still, in critique of the communist system throughout the Soviet Union, was if you have a state-run enterprise, there's no real incentive for service workers to do a good job because they get paid whether their customers come in or not, right? And so that's a point against sort of a state-run service industry. But anyway, I don't want to get too mired in that conversation because that's not the point. I'm just saying that that's an example of a disagreement, something that we could have conversation about, come to conclusions about, find nuance, find common ground, right? Move forward with simple solutions or simple ideas. That is not what's happening today, okay? We are not having a disagreement. We are not disagreeing with one another. there is a consensus, a majority consensus on the issue of climate change about what is happening. There is, the experts are of a vast majority, in the high 90s majority, with those opposed to the idea being directly funded by the industry most affected by the transition that must occur and will occur whether we like it or not. In the populace, there's super majority support now that climate change is not only real, but that humanity is the one that's responsible for moving it forward, and that something must be done about it, right? There are majority. So the issue, we're even voting along these lines, right? Part of the reason why the Liberals get voted in is because they claim that they want to do something about climate change, but the reality is that they really just pander to the idea while banning straws, right? Like, ooh, straws, that'll do it. What is happening right now is not a political disagreement. It is not a disagreement between equals or peers. It is a grift. That is what we're experiencing now. It is a grift. The grift is being funded by the billionaire class. The grift is being presented as though it's reasonable, right? Like, the billionaire class has so much money, that they can literally erect entire institutions whose entire job it is to run a grift on the populace, right? That's institutions like the Fraser Institute, which is a hack, partisan, politically ideologically driven organization that doesn't believe in reason, facts, or logic. They just present themselves as if they do. But when you actually look at anything they present, it's childishly easy to dismantle. Like, and that's across the board. They're paid to lie. And once you realize that, once you recognize that they're paid to lie, right? They're not paid to disagree. And this is the important distinction, and why it's gotten into my head and why it's turned into a little noodle, is that they're not paid to disagree. Okay? This is what the people who have been duped by the Fraser Institute and by these oil companies and by these billionaires will say. They'll say, "Well, you're being so upset because somebody's disagreeing with you." No, I'm not upset because they're disagreeing with me. I'm upset because they're lying to me, because they're running a grift, right? That they're actively attempting to harm and hurt our society in very serious ways for their own personal gain. In this sort of absurd, twistic logic that pretends as though they themselves will not also be affected by the worst outcomes of climate change. Like, it's not only duplicitous and objectively evil what they're doing, it's self-destructive, right? To make this like short-term gain. This idea that like, haha, I'll make $1 million this year and then 5 years I won't be able to eat. Like, that's the logic that they're using, right? I don't care if you have $100 million. When the food shortages start, you'll find it tough too. So we're not experiencing a disagreement, right? It's not like we have equal positions, right? There are grifters who are actively paying institutions to lie to us, and the people who have been duped by those grifters. There's no longer a conversation going on. This is why people are like, our politics are so divisive. It's because there isn't a conversation. It's because we're not really truly experiencing like a democratic conversation, right? We are dealing with grifters now. And in my view, the conversation, if we were a rational people who were not so gullible and cowardly, wouldn't be, what are we going to do to stop climate change? Or it wouldn't be the idea that we'll negotiate with the oil companies. It would be, what punishment are we going to deliver on these grifters? This is the conversation that we should be having about ExxonMobil, Shell, all of these CEOs and billionaire owners of these companies. What should their punishment be? Right? That's the conversation we should be having, because we know we're correct. We know we're right. We know what facts and logic are, right? And we can have the conversation what should be done about climate change, but at this point we also need to start saying to one another, what should we do to punish these grifters? To tell the society that no, you cannot be a grifter when it comes to climate change. That there will be consequences for your grifting and for your con job that you're actively perpetrating on the society. My view is very simple. These people should be hung as traitors. That we should round up these ExxonMobil CEOs and the Shell company CEOs and their surrogates, right? And we should have a trial. We should take them through a trial the way that we tried the Nazis in the Nuremberg trials, right? For their many crimes against humanity. And we should say directly to them, look, at the end of this, some of you are going to get hung. We're just deciding which ones. So cooperate, and maybe it won't be you. And that's where I am. That's my position. I think that if you found out in the 70s, like ExxonMobil, we have all this paperwork, we have this documentation, you can go look at it. It's online, it's easy to find. Do a Google search. ExxonMobil, they knew about the climate change catastrophe in the 70s. And they actively mounted a campaign of disinformation to lie to the populace about it in order to maintain their own wealth and prestige and position. This is treason. This is at best, it's a national security issue. This is what startles me about the Liberals, right? Is they'll declare an emergency about climate change, but then they won't actually get us into a state of emergency, right? They'll say it's a state of emergency and then ban straws. Nope. We need to not only declare this as like a state of emergency, we need to say that climate change is a national defense issue. We need to arrest the people who are still lying and grifting about climate change. We need to arrest the people who knowingly perpetrated these climate crimes against us. We need to ensure that other people understand that there will actually be consequences for acting in this manner. And my position, and you can say that my position is extreme, I think is extremely rational. These people should be hung as traitors, and we should simply to say to the nation, do not do this. Do not grift when it comes to climate change, when it comes to climate disasters, when it comes to any of this kind of stuff. Not interested. And if people wanted to call me a barbarian or a murderer or any of that kind of stuff for that, I would shrug and be like, what are you going to do? And move on with my life. So I think I'll just close on that, guys. Honestly, we're not in the middle of a discussion. We're in the middle of accepting that we've been grifted, and we should stop pretending it's anything but. Like, share, subscribe, share this video around. I'm almost at 70 subscribers. Let's go on YouTube. Let's go YouTube. Instagram's good too. I love you guys. Mwah. Good luck.